Understanding kingdom concepts. Studying the concept of kingdoms is important for a couple of reasons. First, because most of us today, particularly in the West, have never lived in a kingdom. The concept is completely foreign to us. We simply do not know what it is like to live under a king. This might not be a problem were it not for the second reason for studying the kingdom. God's government. The government of heaven is a kingdom, and God is the king. And because his kingdom extends through all creation, encompassing both the supernatural and the natural realms, it covers us also, which is why we need to understand it. A third and critical reason to study and restore this concept of kingdom is because the Bible is not about a religion or an organization but a king and his kingdom. Therefore, in order to correctly understand, interpret, and apply the scriptures, knowledge of kingdoms is necessary. The kingdom is the oldest of all forms of government and the only one that is of divine origin. God invented the kingdom concept and established it first in heaven. Simply stated, a kingdom is simply a domain over which a king has rulership. Heaven was the first domain that God created. Although invisible, it is a very real place. Even more real than what we call reality. The natural came from the supernatural. Therefore, the supernatural is always more real than the natural. Heaven is more real than earth, even though we cannot see it with our physical eyes. In the beginning, God established a kingdom as the governmental system for ruling the supernatural realm of heaven. Once his kingdom was established in heaven, God desired to extend it to another realm. With this end in mind, the big picture, he created a visible, physical universe with billions of stars, including the one we call Sol, the sun around which revolves this planet we call Earth. The king chose this planet specifically as the location of his kingdom colony in the natural realm. He created it for that purpose. Then he placed on it human beings created in his image to run the colony for him. In this way, God also established the first earthly kingdom, which was merely an extension of his kingdom in heaven, through rebellion against the king. However, man lost his rulership. We have been trying to get it back ever since. Even though we lost our earthly kingdom, we still retain the original kingdom idea that the king implanted in our spirit. We are searching for the kingdom all the time. But without God we can never find it because it is from him. In our kingdom search through the ages, man has developed and experimented with many different systems of government. As we saw earlier in this chapter, every one of them, including those we call kingdoms, are defective because mankind is defective. But they all are driven by our desire to regain and restore the original kingdom. This is not a utopian fantasy. In the beginning, God established utopia in heaven, and then extended it to earth. Our utopian dreams are simply expressions of our yearning to regain the kingdom we once had but lost. According to the colonial charter stated in Genesis chapter 1:26 that we looked at earlier, man originally was given an earthly kingdom to rule over, which was perfect. Adam and Eve were overlords of the physical domain, co-rulers who themselves were ruled only by God, their creator king. They were his people, and he was their God. There was no intermediary rulership. Human kingdoms, which at best were but dim and flawed reflections of God's kingdom, had citizens who were also subjects of the king, meaning that they were subject to the king's personal ambitions, goals, whims, and desires. God's kingdom is different. In the kingdom of God there are no subjects, only citizens, but every citizen is a king, or queen, in his or her own right. This is why the Bible refers to God as the King of Kings. He is the high king of heaven who rules over the human kings he created in turn to rule over the earthly domain.